and welcome to another episode of Brand Retro. Today we have Ken Ledkilla Lashley with us today, comic book artist who's done. I'm gonna totally cut you short here, but you've done everything from Batman, Superman, Suicide Squad, Xmen, Transformers, Star Wars, you name it. You've kind of touched it. Is that right?
That's pretty accurate. That sounds pretty amazing the way it sounds there, but that's kind of how it works. So yeah,
well, it is pretty amazing. Yeah. So thanks for coming on, Ken. I really appreciate it. And to start out with, just get us up to speed a little bit. Tell me a little bit about how you started your career.
I started a long time ago, probably before most people were born, 1990s, early 90s. My first job was Age of Apocalypse, Excalibur. I was very young and new to the business at the time, so I made every mistake possible. You know, that's how it works. But that's how I got started. I opened up a studio for a while. Contractual Jump Entertainment, had some success with that. Had some people, but of course, you know, like being an artist, you know, and sort of it took a backseat to the business part of it. So I really wasn't. It wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. So I decided after 10 years of that and working with some of the biggest brands, I really wanted to get back to the table every day as opposed to managing people and the table. It was made for long days. So I kept those clients together and kept rolling. And I'm doing it now. Even now, I'm working out of my home office, about to make a big change in that. But basically, I just got lucky in the early '90s and got that first really big gig. My first job was as Age of Apocalypse Excalibur, or the Xmen books. And then after that, I've just been worked DC. Did Superman, did JLA, did The Flash, went back to Marvel, and did Uncanny X-Men, and then did just all kinds of titles over the years. So I've been very fortunate to be able to work on some of the biggest brands and to also knock out on some of those dreams. Worked for Hasbro toys for a lot of years. So working on G.I. Joe brand, Star Wars brand, Transformers, you name it. I've done a lot of that packaging art. Even have my face as a G.I. Joe. So it's been a wild time in the last 25 years or so.
Was your goal to always do art in that way in comic books and that kind of a thing, or was it just kind of an industry you fell into? Tell me a little bit about how you got in.
I've always wanted to be an artist. So people don't understand that. They think, it's just Dad. You lived in the dark. Yeah, we did live in the dark times. I had to get up and get over to my TV and turn the knob physically. I'm sorry, but that's kind of what the world they live in. But I like the immediacy is great though. They get a chance to see some crazy good things too. I love it. I'm not gonna lie to you and say, digital. You get to see it in a streaming device and it's digital, and you get to go back and forth and look at all the things you may have missed. But I no longer had to convince my parents to stay on the channel anymore. Please stay on this channel. So those days are gone. I could just, okay, you watch it on your TV, I'll watch it on my TV. My kids don't even watch regular cable TV. Everything is digitally and online. I don't think the last time I've seen them turn on a TV and watch something that wasn't, web based. It's just interesting how the world has changed. There's also a changed a comic book artist career. Like my career at the beginning was getting a chance to meet fans that was sort of thing you only did at comic conventions. Now they have direct access to you in different places and ask you questions right off the bat. I do live streams. Like the world has completely changed. I feel it better. I think it's great, but I think if you're not really prepared for it and personable, I think you would have some issues. But I love it. I have Killicons, where people once a week I let them pick and choose any character and I'll draw live. And one of those Killicons, a couple of them, this last one I did, Moon Knight, ended up being a cover. Marvel reached out, and now it's a cover for Marvel. So it's like it is what it is, right? The world has changed.
Even the tools you guys use. I remember I was never in the industry, but I remember learning about the industry when I was really young in my career, and it was a lot more pencils, paste ups. It was you had contact cement next to you to put the bubbles on, and now everything's digital. So I can't imagine that all that technology and the efficiencies that came with it haven't benefited your guys' careers huge.
I think sometimes hinders, right? Because you've done it a certain way for so long that I have to learn a new technology, and sometimes it's or a new way of doing things, and sometimes you just like I'm good the way it was. I'm good doing this way. Even with my own pages, it was tough when I had to sort of when you send your pages in, this is the format, and I was like, send my pages in. Before I would just when I'm done a page, it goes into a box and it goes shipped.
Yep.
Now it goes over to another workstation and it gets scanned and it has to be a certain size and it gets uploaded. So they have access to it within 10 minutes of you finishing it. And then they can go. so the pages don't physically leave my house. But sometimes they go, oh, I didn't get that file, or the file's corrupted, or something, or it's too small, it's too big, it's whatever. And for a good week or so, when I first started had to do it because they didn't have anybody at the companies I'm working for that would take your pages anymore. It was like, oh, I'm on a deadline, and I'm stopping my deadline so I can go and format the page. So it was just like, oh, this is just wasting. I just need to get on with my page, my real job, right? It's like I've taken up production without being paid for production. You know what I mean?
Right.
But looking back at it now, it really can control the art. Like, I mean, but thank God I do it digitally in some ways. I do it still traditional. I still scan it in, but at the end, the last thing they said is digital. Because I have a Cintiq and some other digital tools, I can make changes. Like I did one where I did an Xmen issue, and they gave me the wrong reference for someone's costume. Like that before was patches for 20 pages. It was just, oh, this is difficult. Now I could just go, hold on a second, let me just do the digital file, and I'll just pull up the file, and I just drew right on the file, and then that was it. It took me maybe half a day, and I was done all the patches.
Yeah.
See, I just did an Aliens cover. I did something, and the reference they gave me, I really couldn't see the rib cage, and then at the end they were like, oh, I think you've drawn one more set of ribs that should have been there. It was just things that were just like, oh man, and that would be a patch before. Now that's just, oh, let me just scan that. I mean, you just digitally just remove it, and that's it. It took me maybe 5 minutes to change it. I mean, that's great, but not every artist wants to do that. I mean, I remember I was reluctant. I had a Cintiq for a year before I actually used it. It was just sitting there.
Yeah. There's something nostalgic too about pen to paper, and just like I always look at, the old sketches of the layouts and stuff that I see, online or whatever, and it's like, God, that's cool the way they used to do some of that stuff. And I know it was pretty crude compared to the technology we have today, but it's still kind of neat to look back at that stuff.
Yeah, it is. I love that stuff. Even now. I mean, I have a lot of art. I mean, I started collecting art. I just got some Garcia Lopez production art for Superman, and seeing he did a technical turn the old school way, like he overlaid it and just drew it on top of it, right? And I think it's a lost art. Even when I first started doing G.I. Joe turns, like those were technical turns, like old school. Line them up, turn it around, and there's a lot of people. Now you don't even do that anymore. They don't even do those kinds of turns anymore. Those turns are obsolete. It's all digital and off you go. But having the ability to do those things old school with a ruler and figure it out, and just take off backpacks and figure it out. You know what I mean? It's like when I get referenced for a cover now, I get one shot, and I'm like, okay, what happens on the sides and the back? Like it's like all like what do I make it up here? And right. Sometimes you have to make it up. That's why you see a lot of silhouettes in the dark. Yeah. They're like, I don't know what goes on in the back, because that's a reference I didn't get. So, I mean, it's great. There's so much more stuff you can do, and reaching out to people, and it's just amazing. But I mean, there's drawbacks too. There's always there's good things and bad things about everything. Every step forward, there's another step sideways and something else. So yeah, I really enjoy like having a fan base that you can connect with on a daily basis is great.
Yeah, the accessibility is through the roof. That's what's nice about it.
You have to be ready for it. That's all. You have to be ready for it. And I didn't even know there was a thing called the other mailbox on Facebook for like years, and then all of a sudden one day I said, "What's this?" And there was like 4,000 messages.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Oh man!" There's like 4,000 people who think Ken Lashley doesn't care about his fans at all. I don't care about any of these people. Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, dude!" And there was and it was so sad. Some of those questions. Oh, I messaged you before, you didn't respond. I'm thinking, oh, what is this other thing? And
yeah,
I had to learn that the hard way. I sent a lot of messages that day.
4,000 to be exact.
Yeah, about that. There was a lot of.
So tell me a little bit about, when you step into a franchise, like say you're going to take on a Superman project, a Suicide Squad, whatever it is. And I know you probably inherently have a wealth of knowledge on these characters, but when you step into a project like that, is there a brand consistency process, a research process, or a brand style guide they give you?
You would think there would be, but there really is not. Most of the time, it's sort of like, we trust you, which is probably a bad thing. They should probably not trust me as much as they should, but they definitely go, yeah, we trust that you're gonna not do something crazy, and we're off brand. But I've done a lot of research. I go do my research, and sometimes it's hard because you Google something or you look something up, and there's a lot of different incarnations of this thing, or a lot of different takes on it. So you're like, oh, okay, all right, okay, which one do I like, and which one would they think is on point? And most of the time they just say, hey, we trust you, do your thing. But sometimes it's a lot. I mean, you're doing working with Star Wars, working with I just did a Power Rangers thing, and that was sort of because that reference is on the older side, like the thing I was doing. So I had to be sort of like, okay, and the shots they gave me were really good, but they were like taken from VHS tapes, so almost like there was like
Right.
old school. So I had to say, okay, so how do I make this a little bit more funky and modern and more fun? So I did my thing, they're at that point where they just decide, oh, we trust you, just do your thing, which is I said is just good, which is great. I feel like, oh, I've come to that point where it's great. But another part is just like, oh my goodness, it would be nice to get some direction sometimes to sort of like steer you in the right direction or steer you here, so you're not. Even when I'm doing roughs, I did roughs for Nice House on the Lake. I've never done horror before. I don't do horror. I'm mostly a superhero guy. So I said, oh, this will be fun. So I get the script and I'm reading it, and I was not script. I just get the notes to get some reference, and I had some fun with it. And they were like, wow, Ken, this is really dark, and this is really like not what we expect from you. But this is really, really cool, skulls and bones and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, but it's stretching your muscles a little bit, right? So that was something, and also there's no history with that one. So I didn't know, there wasn't a lot of books to go buy and look at and Google. There's a couple images out there and the 6 or 7 pages they sent me, and I had to extrapolate a cover out of that, which was
Right.
so there are ways they're on doing it, but this is the beauty of drawing and art in general. You really have to find your own thing within something, So
Yeah, and it's probably by design something where you got to leave the artist a little bit of creative space to kind of make it their own, which is
yeah,
probably why they get the different iterations that they do
yeah,
across
yeah, that's true.
multiple characters. Yeah.
Very true. But I mean, even well, I mean, that's a struggle. That's a struggle with an artist when you're working on different projects. The struggle is to make it sort of your own. Not to regurgitate somebody else's ideas or someone else's sensibility. It's hard. Like hey, you want to draw Silver Surfer, and you're like, oh, I love Silver Surfer. I love the Buscema Silver Surfer, and it'd be hard not to channel that surfer to try to do something like that. Or even I did a Spider-Man book, and it was supposed to be flashback, and the original source material was done by John Romita. I mean, so I'm looking at John Romita and I'm drawing a Spider-Man, and the pages that I drew, I really tried to channel John Romita, and even Marvel was like, "This is so '60s, this is crazy fun." And even the fans were like, "This is the most amazing thing," because it felt like because I was, I had this stuff in front of me, so I was like looking at it, and then we did some modern scenes at the same time, so I was flapping back and forth. But it was fun to do that kind of stuff. But you don't get a chance to do that every day. Most of the time, you
Yeah.
got to find your own voice and just kind of do your thing.
How would you describe kind of the brand storytelling process? Because I know,
Mm.
I mean, essentially these franchises, they're brands. I mean, Superman has become a
Oh,
brand. It's,
oh, one
you're
hundred percent.
stepping into something that's got almost 100 years worth of legacy.
It's mythos too. It's mythos. I mean, it really comes down to that. I mean, okay, so how do you step into a Superman brand? You're going to be one of the artists, or any brand of that magnitude. I mean, I always think of them as mom brands. This is how I say mom brand. My mom is like, she's not into this stuff at all. But if I told her Spider Man, she'd know what I was talking about. If I said Superman, she'd know what I'm talking about. If I said Doctor Strange, she might go, "What? What is that?" Right? I'd be like, she may have to ask. But there are certain mom brands that everyone on the planet knows what they are. So there's some reference, and there's some you have to treat it with that, treat it with that respect. So it's tough sometimes to really sort of, okay, I don't want to deviate from the path, but I also want to make it my own path. So that's the struggle. But there are some things I think that they will accept and say, yeah, that's great. Other things like, well, this is a little too far off brand. When I was working on Transformers with Hasbro, they want to do a different direction. They said, oh, we want to do this crazy idea and just have some fun with it. And it was tough because you're like, what do you mean? Just go out there and do crazy work. And that's what we did. And that ended up being sort of like the little seed that was planted that ended up growing into the Transformer movies. But it was because it was like this weird, that's when we see it was just weird designs. We just went out of control. And then they're like, oh, look at this design kit full of all these great, weird iterations of the characters that we know and love. They kind of feel familiar, but not really. And then, that became part of the design pack. And then the design pack gets passed around to another artist, and then they do their thing. And then it becomes another thing and another thing and another thing. And then you have the Transformer movie. And then
Yeah.
some of them were taken more little. There's a couple of characters that I designed or did concept work for. They end up being more closely related. Like there's a couple, like a snake. It's just great. It's just great to see it on screen. Sort of like, oh, I did like 30% of that character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or percentage of that character. But that's part of the design process.
Is it typically a team you're working with when you're coming up with those concepts, or is it very collaborative, or is it more stemmed from
really,
you?
No, it's just sort of like you do your thing, and then we take them, and then we show them to the team, and then it goes, because I'm at the design toy end, and sometimes because whoever the brand holder is or the rights holder, that's who starts the discussion. So if it's a Hasbro IP, they say, oh, we want to control a little bit of it, so they ask somebody like myself or to come in and do a design kit that they would show to a movie house, and then the movie house would take it and go, oh yeah, I could see it as a movie. But the beginning of it is definitely have some fun with it, but then it becomes more hard-edged as it goes further along, away from you and off your desk. And sometimes you can call back to do things and say, oh, we like this feel, can you do something else? And we like this and that, and that happens a fair bit. I did that with the G.I. Joe movie as well. And so you start off with that stuff, and then it goes from there. But when you see it come out, it's sometimes it's very close to what you did. Sometimes it's nothing like what you did, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, and that's great, you know what I mean? Because they took it on a different tangent. And it's also weird, like some parts of it are good, and that the gun will be yours, and the backpack will be yours, and maybe the eye goggles will be yours, and then nothing else is, all the cool parts are not yours, but all the other parts are. I mean, so it's a great design. It's great to be in design.
Yeah. So as I was prepping for this today, I definitely found a common theme that work-life balance is something that's very important to you. Tell me a little bit about your focus on work-life balance, and also like, what's a day in the life look like? How many projects are you typically running at one time, per month, per week, whatever it is?
I don't have great work-life balance. That is why I always try to talk about it, because I am one of those people that say yes to a lot of things because they all sound cool. So I just say, yeah, I'll do that, and then I realize, wow, I can't. What am I saying that for? I should definitely say no to some of these things. And in the last few years, I've said no, which is so unheard of. Like, I just never used to do that. So and then they would just wait. They would say, oh no, we'll wait until it opens up in your schedule. That's insane. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. I'm like, great, but okay. I'll try and work faster so I can make these breaks smaller. But the day in my life is definitely, I think I'm doing a project for Marvel, covers for 3 different companies. And then I'll do two creator-owned things. I'm working on this new program where I write 6 things that I have to do in a day, and I try to do 100 days of taking care of this list. So I'm trying to do this thing right now, and I put a lot of my own creator-owned stuff, because that's what that's what everything that goes to the back burner is always your creator-owned stuff. But in my regular days, I wake up, I try to eat healthy. That's another thing too, But I think once I have that in work wise, I try to facilitate whatever's on fire, which is probably usually a cover. Probably do 2 or 3 of those, or at least work on those. Do 3 or 4 hours, 5 hours of that, and then I take a bunch of calls, and then I probably get back to another 3 or 4 hours of drawing, and then probably around 11, midnight, I kind of squeeze in an hour of my own stuff. Try to do at least an hour every day of my own stuff. I'm not always successful, but I try to do that sometimes. But I found that even if I have a deadline, I have to do my own stuff a little bit. But here's another thing too that I found: the Killicons, those live drawings on my Facebook page. Most of the time, I've got crazy deadlines. I'm busy. I shouldn't be doing them. I got lots of stuff to do. But to be honest with you, it's kept me focused, because it's a commitment that I made. So I said, okay, I have to continue to do this. Just have a moment of just sort of like to be able to say, oh, I'm taking a break from my normal drawing, and just talk to other fans, and we all watch the same things, and we're all having a good time, and we're all doing that stuff. So it's good to have, even though I know I'm deadline heavy, and even though it's crazy, to be able to say, oh, that's an hour, and we'll just, because I talk and draw. And my wife is usually the moderator, or my oldest daughter, and we just talk about food, what you have for dinner, and it's a mental break. But I definitely, my day is long. It's probably about 12 to 14 hours. It's always fun because I get to draw or whatever I'm working on. Like today, I'm working on what am I working on today? I'm working on something for Marvel, which is really cool. I have a meeting, I have a call with them later on. I'm doing 7 Secrets, a boom cover, and I'm doing, you know, what I mean, so I've got some stuff on the go. It's just fun stuff. You know, every day it's a fun stuff. I just finished doing Avengers cover, Star Wars cover. You know, what I mean, these are, but that's my daily basis. So facilitate my regular job, and then get into some fun stuff. But I do have to service my own creator-owned stuff at least an hour a day. Try to.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just the exercise of getting that mental break is enough motivation for you to go back at it for a couple more hours, you know, later in the day or whatever it is.
Yeah, it is. It's great. I mean, I have to do it though. I mean, but it's fun though. It's fun to get out and even just get out. I coach high school football too, so I mean, I coach high school, so that's good to get out and sort of, you know, yell at some kids and, you know, have some fun. But that's also one of my side things, just for fun and to get out and sort of be in the community, that kind of stuff. But most of the time, I'm in this room and I'm hammering away at drawing.
I know that feeling.
That's crazy.
It's a curse and a blessing, but
sure,
it's kind of your own safe space, because it's like when I'm working on stuff, there's hours that go by where I don't even realize it happened because I'm having fun. And then, like everybody, I have days where I need to get out of here for a while. So
yeah. And I think people think that the job is real fun all the time, and it's still work. I mean, there are times where I just don't. You know, sometimes people always think, I always try to explain this to people. People say, "Oh, you get to draw for a living. It's so much fun." And I go, "Well, I don't draw what I want to draw. I mean, I'm drawing what, you know, I mean, it's like, you know what I mean? It's like people think that I'm sitting around just drawing whatever I want. They take it and use it. No, that there's very specific things that I have to draw for a certain company. So it's like there's, you know, I mean, I love when I'm drawing every day. You know, most of the time it's not what I would choose to draw for if I was just sitting around doing. These are jobs. So I have to do them to the utmost ability, but they're still work. It's still work. So, and that's what I try to explain to people. And people don't really subscribe. They're trying to think, oh, you're just saying that, you know, you love what you do. And I said, I love drawing, but I don't always love what I draw. Yeah, I mean, that's just one of the things that people. But I enjoy the creation of it and seeing people's excitement afterwards. But there are times when you're drawing a chest plate that has 75,000 things on it. Like I did a job with Wizards of the Coast, and their stuff is hyper detailed. And it was like the reference they sent me was like, dude, like, wow, okay, this was done on the computer. and this is like this mesh here on this forearm is going to take me longer than the forearm, right? So that's just the nature of the beast, right? So do you want a job or not? And sure, at the end of it, you're happy you did it and it looked great. But there was times halfway through that thing, I was like, oh my god, how can I cheat this? How can I cheat this? Where's my digital tools?
Out of all the projects you've done, what's your favorite, or at least a couple favorites? Because there probably maybe there isn't one, right?
Oh, I don't know. Each has its own thing. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I have a Star Wars logo on my car outside. Drawing the San Diego Comic-Con, drawing on the Star Wars car, you know, live and Sharpie. Well, that was pretty crazy. That was really fun. Uncanny Xmen was really good because that was my legacy book growing up. That's my favorite thing growing up. So I got a chance to draw that. Working on G-Force cartoon redesigns. That was a fun gig. Oh man, it's like, you know, working at Hasbro toys, you know, working on G.I. Joe, Transformers, Star Wars Unleashed. I mean, like, it just, like, it depends on what time, you know, I'm old. So like, depending what was going on at the time. I mean, I remember drawing style guide stuff for Star Wars, and they released the name of the movie with my artwork. Like, there was like, you know, and now the name of the movie is, and they pulled up one of my drawings for the style guide, and it said, you know, Revenge of the Sith. And I was like, I was sitting in San Diego Comic-Con in the room, you know, Lucasfilm invited me to be part of that, knowing full well that they were going to do that. And I was just sitting there going, wow, like, it was like, I just got an instant headache. I was just sitting there freaked out. And of course the guys who work with me are sitting beside me and they're like, oh my God, how do you feel? And I go, oh my gosh. And of course they're talking to me like, oh my God, your artwork looks so good. And of course everyone around us is going, what, who, what? You know, like, and I'm just looking, and then they started asking me questions, and I was like, it was just weird. It was a weird experience to be in the audience when they did that. And
I think about times like that would have blew 10-year-old Ken's mind.
Absolutely. No, 20-year-old Ken's mind. You know,
20-year-old Ken would have crumbled you.
My mind. I got a headache. I'm not gonna lie to you. I got an instant headache. I was just like overwhelmed, and then I went down. A weird story. I mean, I did an interview in Toronto for this TV station called Space. It was sort of like, it's like at the Sci-Fi Channel in Canada. And I showed them behind the scenes. Lucasfilm gave me some approvals, show them what I was doing. I said, sure. So I was showing them what I was working on. And I did a bunch of style guide stuff for the Revenge of the Sith. So I just showed them the work, and it was pretty cool. So when I was walking, go to San Diego, I'm walking across the street, and I happened to bump into the people that came to my studio a couple weeks earlier. Just happened to see them on the street. And they're like, oh, how do you feel? And I said, oh, I'm fine. It's, a nice day. I'm going to the going. He goes, no, have you been inside? And I was like, no, I haven't been inside. What's going on? And he goes, oh, you haven't seen the Star Wars booth? And I was like, no, not yet. What's something I should know? And he's like, wait, we want to follow you. So they followed me back in. And then, so what I didn't know was Lucasfilm had taken some of my drawings and blown out to 40 feet high, and those were the pillars around the Star Wars booth. So all those drawings that I showed them in my office weeks prior are now the base of the whole entire booth. And I was just like, holy cow, it was so sick, the giant Anakin, and taking pictures of me in front of it. And I kept saying, can I have this for my house? How do I steal one of these panels? Because it'd be bigger than my car. These things were huge. But it was such a weird weekend because everybody who was saying, oh, Ken, what are you working on? I would just point over to the Lucasfilm booth because you can see it from anywhere on the floor. And
right.
Oh, that's your artwork. Holy smoke. What a great experience that was as a kid who loved Star Wars to do that. It was just an amazing thing, and I can't say enough how much that has changed how your perception of, it just changed my life. It changed my life and how I looked at my work, what's possible, what's not possible. I mean, just the things that happened. That whole time really changed the course of my career, because those drawings and that moment, they were Lucasfilm gigs. So I get to work for Lucasfilm. That's an amazing opportunity.
What a self-validating moment to just be like, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the top of the mountain or however you want to say it, but it's validating nonetheless to be doing something like that.
Yeah, it was sort of like, not even like thinking of it as top of the mountain for me. But I understand exactly what you're saying. But it's more like when you're an artist and you're trying to make it and you're trying to do it, like you're kind of the only person that really believes. Like everyone supports you and thinks you're great. People are in your circle, but you have to sort of believe that you got to drink your own Kool-Aid a little bit, right? So I was like, I can do this. I know I can do it. And then when you get a moment like that where they could have picked any artist in anyone in the world to do this illustration, and they chose you, and then they put that as a focus of their booth. I mean, it was just like, wow, that was so. It was so on. It just changed how I thought of my work after that. I always thought I need to get there, and then people started saying, "Oh, someday." I think it was weird. Somebody did an interview with me like a few years ago, and said, and I was just watching a friend of mine do an interview, and the interviewer asked him and said, what do you want your career to be like? It's, I'd love to have a career like Ken Lashley. And I was just like, I was watching it and I was a little bit like, what are you talking about? Right. It was just such a weird moment to have someone talk to you, talk about you like that, because I have such a long way to go. I'm just trying to do my own thing and have fun with it. But it's weird how other people have taken notice of some of the things that I've done. I think that's the best part of it, when you realize that some of the choices you made haven't been always the greatest, but in the end you kind of got where you needed to go. You know what I mean? And then I think that's, you got to trust yourself, but then we don't do that as people, let alone artists. We just don't do that. We always think someone else has the answer, but sometimes you do. So that's when I think it was the best part, was getting that validation, sort of, but the validation really is for them to see what I always thought I could do. Does that make sense?
Right.
That's kind of what it is. Like, and that's really what happened. It was such a great experience.
Well, Ken, I'm going to wrap it up here, and thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to put in the show notes kind of how to find your art and kind of how to basically to track your work, because I know there's a ton of stuff out there.
Yeah, okay.
But I really appreciate you coming on and sharing some of the insight you did.
It was a fun time, man. A fun time. I did a little talking, but it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Ken. Have a great day.
Man, you take care of yourself.
If you'd like to learn more about CyberDogs, share your thoughts, or even ask a specific question about this episode and or the brand Retro Mindset, contact me directly at mike@cyberdogsmarketing.com.